If you've ever opened a shared drive and stumbled onto a file you definitely weren't supposed to see, or discovered your team has been secretly testing out a shiny new AI tool without telling IT, don't worry, you're not alone.
Welcome to AI Explored. AI Explored.
Greetings, listener, and welcome to another thought-provoking episode of AI Explored, the Human's Guide to the Future. I'm your host, Jeremy, a confirmed human. I know because my mom told me so. I'm also the guy who gets suspicious every time a new tool asks me to index everything. Today, I'm joined by James Pham, founder of Opsin, to unpack what Gen AI adoption really looks like inside companies and why the biggest risks aren't exotic prompt injections, but plain old oversharing. So what happens when Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini suddenly open the floodgates of enterprise data? How do you deal with shadow AI popping up where you least expect it? And why is Bob in IT always at the center of the trouble? Well, we're about to find out. Strap in, adjust your headphones, and prepare for launch. Our mission to demystify AI starts now. So, James, thank you for being here, as always. What's the biggest Gen AI adoption trend that you're seeing right now?
Yeah, so I think the biggest Gen AI adoption trend that I'm seeing right now is a lot of customers are utilizing out-of-the-box Gen AI tools such as Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and just because, Google and Microsoft had the biggest distribution, right? And it's when they enable it by default, and by default, everyone get access to it, like that's the biggest trend. Here in the Valley, I heard a lot of things about like agentic AI and all of that, but when I talk to like manufacturing company, a water bottling company, that is very far remote, right? Like what they only care about now is like, how do I adopt simple tools like Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini easily and safely? So that's been like the biggest trend and theme that I've been hearing so far in terms of adoption of Gen AI outside of the tech bubble. I would say bubble, but yeah.
Yeah, because you've spoken with over 300 leaders across different industries and org sizes. What's been the most consistent in how these companies are rolling this out? So you just alluded to the fact that sometimes they don't get an option. It just is enabled by default.
Yeah.
But from there, what's been the most consistent way that they're doing this?
Yeah. So the most consistent way that people do this is that they wanted to test out in a small sample. So what that means is that usually these enterprise tools have two versions, like a free version and like a paid version. So paid version usually have a lot more capabilities. So usually the playbook that I've been seeing is that they want to roll out to small organizations. So for example, we have manufacturing customers that they have like 14,000 employees, but they are rolling out to 100 employees first.
Yeah.
So what they want to do there is that they want to go to a small subset of their users so that they can measure two things. One is on return on investment, right? Like what the user are doing, right? Like, because like take Microsoft Copilot, for example, it's very expensive, right? It's $30 per user per month. That pricey. So they want to measure the return on investment. So like, okay, if I enable Microsoft Copilot, then what are people doing with it? Like, are they saving time? Are they increasing productivities or not? Right. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is a lot of time people talk about the benefits of technologies and then all the excitement around Gen AI and how amazing it is. But the second biggest concern from enterprise segment is that enterprises have a lot of proprietary data, right? Like, for example, manufacturing design, intellectual properties, all of this like very sensitive information in the enterprise. Like we also work with healthcare customers where their sensitive data is personal health information from their patients. So then the second thing that they measure is around data privacy and security in general. So the consistent playbook that that I've been seeing playing is that they want to test out with a small subset of their users, usually like 100, to measure ROI, to measure data security and privacy.
Mhm.
So after that, usually what they do is that they build a case to their leadership or to their management, like, oh, okay, so we're at 100 now. These are the return on investment. We made sure that it's not oversharing data, like people get access to the data that they are supposed to. Now we want to expand it to like 500, and then like what's the rollout look like? So that's what I've been seeing, and along the way, there's a lot of user education that happened too, right? So like people need to educate, like, hey, this is Microsoft Copilot. This is its capability. This is what you could do. And imagine, right? Like for example, I work with a environmental drilling company
Mhm.
where their end user are geologists, like drillers, like very like almost like construction like workers.
Mhm.
So you have to like educate them, like, hey, this is what Microsoft Copilot could do. This is what it cannot do. So a lot of like user education that happened in the process as well. So that has been like a consistent playbook that I've seen with enterprises trying to adopt Gen AI so far.
Yeah. And that's pretty consistent from what I see a lot of times as well, like use case scenarios, prompt libraries to help them out, get them moving forward. Is there a common misconception about how safe or ready these tools are out of the box?
Yeah, definitely. It not misconception, but more like people just got too excited. And
Yeah, people are assuming Copilot is secure just because it's from Microsoft or
yes,
right.
yes, exactly. It's a behemoth, right? Like it's from Microsoft with our enterprises for decades. Like they figured out like all the security stuff. Like I don't need to worry about it. So there's definitely this misconception around like how security is, and oftentimes people got too excited about what it could do, and it's like, oh, they don't like really worry about like the dark side of it. Like so, every technology have a good side and a dark side, but people like got too hyped with all the media coverage around like Gen AI and stuff. So they got really hyped on the benefit, but not much care on the downside of it. So that's where I ran into a few scenario at one of our customers. One of their employees actually in the sales team was hunting for information, and he actually found sale commission data from other team members. The other example is we work with an investment bank, and one of the employees managed to find like kind of unpublished M&A data, which is like you
Wow.
can use that for insider stock trading and stuff like that.
100%.
It's like very dangerous stuff, right? So people got really hyped up in terms of the benefits and the values, but once more time goes by, they will realize, oh, well, this actually have a lot of security risks that I haven't thought about. Especially if you start with like 50 licenses, you don't see much, but if you reach like 100 licenses, like 100 people using it, then these oversharing of data, like people get access to sensitive information that they shouldn't get access to, either like by accident, right? Like they're genuinely working on their stuff, like email, PowerPoint, and stuff like that, but they just come across information that they don't know that they get access to, or like malicious, right? Like someone actively hunting for things, but around 100 licenses, and you start like a lot of security problem emerge, and it's not some fancy things like prompt injection, model poisoning, all these state level kind of exercise, but more like, what is Jeremy's salary? It's just that. It's just like very basic and naive prompt that is super hard for any Gen AI tool to kind of prevent it from happening.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When did it first click for you that this wasn't a model issue and it was an access control issue?
When it first clicked to me was like you mentioned, I talked with hundreds of security leaders. So I talk with engineers, I talk with chief information security officers, I talk with chief information officer, CIO, and so I have a wide range of perspective of different angles. And when it first clicked to me is when Gen AI first released. I was like, this tool is amazing. Like it can do so many stuff. But at the same time, I have a machine learning and security background. I was at Abnormal Security working on their machine learning platform. I was like, no way. Like it cannot be that amazing. There's definitely something that people haven't thought about yet, but it will be there. Like just like how the cloud, right? The cloud kind of released 20 years ago, everyone got excited, but then all this
Yep.
like access and data and stuff like that kind of emerged. So we start thinking about it, talking with a lot of customers, and about last year, then we realized that, oh my gosh, people haven't talked about it, but oversharing actually the biggest problem out there. It's not the model problems. It's not Microsoft problem. It's not Google problem. It's the end user problem. It's the oversharing data. It's
Yep.
the same data governance problem that have been prevalent in enterprises for decades. But with Gen AI, it just make it so much easier for people to see all these data governance issue to emerge. But so that's when it clicked for me, when thinking about like what's the future of AI look like. And when you think about startup, right, like we always think like maybe like 10 step ahead of the general populations. And that's how we started building Opsin to help with that.
Yeah, so perfect, right? So you've said prompt injection isn't the big threat like oversharing is. So I want to unpack that a little bit. So like we love talking about jailbreaks, but that's not what's actually getting people in trouble, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because all these big companies like Google, Microsoft, or like whatever Gen AI tools that you're trying to adopt out there, when they develop it, they actually have certain guardrails around prompt injections, around model poisoning. They actually have entire security team take care of it at Microsoft, for example, just to take care of that prompt injection, model poisoning, and all of that stuff. So that stuff already taken care of. But like I mentioned, the easier stuff, but it's so hard, right? Like someone asking about somebody else, Sari, or someone asked about an engine design, it could be legitimate use case, right? Like for example, I'm in HR, I'm asking about, okay, I'm doing like salary planning, right? Look into people's salary and see, what kind of report that you can pull, for example. It can be legitimate, but it can also be malicious. And the thing is, data governance is an end user problem, because if an end user set the permission correctly in the first place, then tools, Gen AI tools like Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini wouldn't be able to access that information, because they do respect the role-based access control that exists on the document, on the file. But if you set it incorrectly, you share to public group, you share to the group that you don't know who they are, then that's a problem. And so it's not about prompt injection. It's not about model poisoning. All of that is taken care of by the model, by the company providers. It's not a model provider. It's a company providers. But like all others, like data governance, oversharing is super hard. And it's not a Microsoft problem too. So that's where it's coming from.
So have you seen an example where a basic prompt surfaced highly sensitive info? Like someone saying maybe give me a sample email, like give me a sample client email, and instead it spits out the real thing that they shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah, so the common one is like find me, like people use enterprise, use tools like Gen AI, like Microsoft Copilot for like enterprise search, for example. They're like find me financial reports, or like find me my passports, or like find me like taxes, for example. And what happened in the back end is that when you do that prompt, Microsoft Copilot, you're going to do a vector search across the tenant. So maybe let me take a step back, right? So when you turn on like Gen AI tools like Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini, what it does is that it indexes all of your enterprise data, terabyte of them, into a vector store. So they use a model to convert into a vector embedding and put that into a vector store. And basically, it's a RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation architectures, in which when someone prompts something, it will go into the vector store and it will search through relevant piece of information that it fit to the model to generate like a human readable language. But as part of that process, it also provide like a huge computation power, allowing like a user to be able to search through terabyte of data in seconds. This is a major difference, right? In the past, like you get like overshare data, you still need to dig through like what's the SharePoint site, what's the folder, what the file, what the paragraph to be able to see that. But with Gen AI, because it's a vector store, you can search through that in seconds. In the past, it took you days and weeks and months to dig through all of that, but now it's a lot easier. So when you do simple prompt, like for example, find me financial reports. It literally goes through your 20 terabyte of data in the enterprise to look through that financial report. And some of it you legitimately need and have access to, but a lot of it will be info like tax report or document report that you don't know that you have access to. And it's just like very simple, right? Like imagine yourself as a security team at Microsoft, like what is it that you're gonna block? Right? Like, it's a legitimate question, right? So yeah, some basic prompt is like find me array, find me financial reports, find me whatever that you can think of, and it's so simple and it's very effective in finding what information that you have in the enterprise.
Yeah, because from a useful standpoint, you mentioned there something I want to address. What is Microsoft going to block? If they block too much, if they take on the responsibility to block the things that probably shouldn't be seen, their tool becomes less useful, especially if that group does want to see that information. So it's another way of looking at the shared responsibility model. You had brought up the cloud earlier. In the cloud concept was a shared responsibility model. We're going to be responsible for the hardware as AWS, as Azure, and all the way up to whatever layer we're good with. But then you, as the consumer, are responsible for what data you put in the cloud. Same thing here. Microsoft saying, look, we're going to make it to where this is going to crawl everywhere you tell it to crawl, and use the data everywhere in your organization. It's your responsibility to decide who should and should not see that. Which brings me to another good point. So we start hearing, I've been talking a lot lately about shadow IT. I just did something yesterday about shadow APIs. And now it sounds like there's shadow AI, right? So we talk about things being on by default. I remember one organization coming to me saying, my team is using this already. I didn't even turn it on. So how widespread is this where you start talking to an organization and they're like, oh, we don't use that. And then they go back and find out we are using that. I want to go have another conversation with James.
Yeah, it's very widespread, right? Because every software company now want to be like an AI first company. So the often tagline that you heard is powered by Gen AI. That's like a very common one. So like every single product on earth right now would have definitely the starter package. They have a chatbot for sure. That's the starter package, right? Like everyone have a chatbot, like customer chatbot or something like that. So that's very basic. Then the next level is someone have a bot that can interact with the APIs and then can do things on user behalf. And the more advanced one, actually, the bot is not even present to the users, but doing things in the back end to help the users is in terms of the agentic architecture. And it's very prevalent, right? Because enterprise a lot of time don't even realize that these software that I have been using for years now suddenly have some Gen AI in it. And from a security standpoint, I was like, when did it turn on? I don't even know. Like just as you're using it nowadays, what is this? Like, how are they using my data? Right? Like, what are they doing with my data? Like, I don't even know. So I think shout out AI in terms of like software companies adopting Gen AI in their product is one issue. Then the second issue that I often hearing security professional talk about is there's so many Gen AI tools out there.
Yeah.
Every day there's new one. So then the question is like from the enterprise perspective, like are you whack-a-mole and just block one by one, or like what are you gonna do? Right? Are you gonna use maybe like some sort of like Gatsby solution like Zscaler or something, or like Palo Alto network to block things? Or like what are they gonna do there? Right. So it shared out AI from both existing software but also in terms of new software.
Yep.
Like employee using things that are not sanctioned and things like that. So I think this is a big issue. And usually what I've seen from organizations is that they have very concerns, right? Like, okay, my employees use these tools because they have a legitimate use case, right? They want to do something that is helpful for their work, but at the same time, they're not security expert. Like they may take my company data, they put into a tool that they don't know where the data is going, like where is it. So that's like a very big issue that I've been hearing from enterprises. So there's like a couple of ways that I've seen people approaching this. So one is going to be completely open. I don't know what is going on, right? Some enterprises don't even have a solution for that.
No solution is not a solution, James, but yes.
Yeah, especially for SMB, right? I don't know. I don't have people on this. Like, I just need someone to enable my account. And then there's the second approach that I've heard is some go the other extreme, which is completely block it. Like anything that has to do with Gen AI will block it. So that the very extreme, and it's not very good, right? Both of the extreme is not good. And then there's a third in the middle row kind of approach that I've heard from companies is they have something called sanction AI.
Okay,
So as the entire company, they decide on like, okay, are we going to use ChatGPT? Are we using Google Gemini? Are we using Microsoft Copilot? And so they sanction one app and then ask everyone to use that app, and then they do what they could to control that application.
Yeah. So do you think having policies is enough, right? Like, so, hey, we're only going to use this tool, or do teams need technical visibility too?
Definitely. I mean, there's a good saying about just but verify, right? I think that's it's always good that you have a good policy, but you cannot enforce it. Like, what's the purpose of it, right? Like, it's just like this is an honor code that everyone should follow, but like, if someone does not follow, like, how do you know, right? So I think technical guardrails is important, right? And the way that people do it is different based on organizations, right? Like, so when you think about technical guardrails, there are a couple of ways that you should look at, right? So one is prevention, right? Like, so you don't want people to kind of sharing enterprise data outside, so you want to proactively go about it. Then two is in terms of detection, right? Like, no matter how strong your prevention is, there's always leakage. There are always things that go out. So detections. And then the next thing is in terms of response, right? Like, okay, someone violated the honor code, the policy. What do we do about it, right? Like, and that response is actually very important, especially in the enterprises. They're usually repeat offenders.
Yeah.
Like someone who like repeatedly break it.
Clicking on that email, it's always the same person. Yes.
The same John from like IT department, or from like he been with the company for 20 years and he never get out of the company and stuff.
To me, it's always a Bob.
It's a Bob. Yeah, it's a Bob. It's a John. It's a whatever that is. But like in terms of like the response, like you want to reduce the time for exposures and you want to correct the behavior as soon as possible. So back to your question about like technical guardrails, I think that organization and enterprises need to think in all these aspects: prevention, detection, and respond. Like, how does that kind of work for their organization? So that's why like you asked me about like the playbook to roll out Gen AI. So that's where the 100 licenses at the beginning is helpful, because it helps you to not just testing the return on investment, but also figuring out your AI security, what your strategy, what your playbook before you roll out to 1,000 people, which will be very chaotic. And you want to have all the guardrails, the technical guardrails, not just the policy and the education and awareness, but also the technical guardrails around it before you roll out to 1,000 people.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. Okay, so you've definitely let us know that you understand the tech. You definitely understand what the problem set is. You've done your research, you've had the conversations, you've put everything in place, and I love it. So I want to pivot a little bit. It's going to continue from this point, but I do want to pivot. So what is a security orchestration layer, and what's Opsin actually doing during a risky prompt?
Yeah. So security orchestration layer, it basically has multiple components that I mentioned with you about prevention, detection, and response. So take the tool Microsoft Copilot, for example. We have pen testing bot go and interact with Microsoft Copilot to see what sensitive information that they get access to. So that's prevention, right? Like, because you want to test out all these sensitive prompts before an actual end user could. So basically, you run through all these sensitive prompts and then you fix it before the end user get a chance to even ask about salary or ask about stuff like that. You want to fix all of that before it happens. And then the next portion is about detection. Like, you have to continuously monitor the environment to see where who is Bob, like what department he's belong to, like why he's repeatedly asking about salary, or like in actually it's hilarious, but this insider thread. I don't know if you read about, but there's this you and rippling case.
I was, you know what? I was just getting ready to mark down as I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to bring that up. So I can put my pen down now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's someone repeatedly asking about competitor names,
Yep.
like 10 times a day. Well, you got to detect that, and you got to do kind of alert security professional about it. So that's the detection, and then the next one is in terms of the response, right? Like, okay, I know who Bob is, like what I'm gonna do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is Bob, this is what he's doing. Like, what am I gonna do about it? So in terms of the security guardrails, we talk about the technical guardrails around Gen AI, specifically around Microsoft Copilot, for example. Then that's what it means to have like the entire security suite around it, so that people can adopt Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and all these Gen AI tools safely and securely. And then from the security standpoint, you have a monitoring solution that you know that if something goes wrong, there's a record that you can go back. There's a chase that you can follow to see like where it went wrong and correct it.
Yeah. So you've used the seatbelt and airbag analogy before. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so seatbelt is more on the prevention, right? Like you want to kind of make sure that the organization can adopt Gen AI securely, but when they don't, you have an airbag who that can cover it, right? Like, okay, if someone hit their face in the wheel and then they get into a car accident, like how do you kind of prevent people from like blowing up their face and like push
Yeah.
their head and stuff like that, right? So I think seatbelt and airbag in this example is that. But also the other thing is in that particular analogy is visibility. Right? You want to have a want to have like a dashboard like in a car that's like, oh, you are about to hit another car. You want to stop it, right? So you want to can kind of have that visibility. So that's where the pen testing bot from us kind of come in, kind of like, okay, you're about to have this issue. You want to fix that. Like you want to hit the brake before you hit another car in a way. So it's not just about seat belt and airbag, but also about, visibility and kind of seeing things ahead before it happens.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. So what does Opsin monitor or control that then the AI vendors don't?
Yeah. So what we monitor and control is around, it's not just about the data. Like a lot of vendors that out there looking at the data, right? The challenge with that approach is that enterprises, for example, some of our customers have 20 terabyte data and they have like 10,000 SharePoint sites. It's going to take them months to scan through all of that. And by the time it is done, it's going to have like 100 pages long of report for people to fix. But the thing is that it's going to take a full-time job to fix that. And like the thing that you fix, someone might never touch it, for example. And then why would you spend time in fixing it? Fixing it is very hard, right? Because you have to talk to the end users, like, hey, what your use case, or why are you doing this? So it takes a long time to talk to end users and fixing it. But the worst thing is by the time that you finish it, there's another 200 pages long that you have to fix because there's new data got generated, new files, new user got added. So it's really hard. So from the Opsin standpoint, it's the losing game. So that's why we have a pen testing bot that focus on the 80% of the risk and fix those. And it's not just about the data itself, but it's also about like what's the prompt that we use, what the responses, and at the same time, who are the end users. So let's say the example about Bob, right? Bob is in HR, for example, he asking about salary. Perfect, you could do it. But let's say you are in engineering and you asking about salary, maybe not perfect. So that's how we kind of differentiate. So one is that we don't go through the entire thing. And then two is that we not just look at the data, we look at the prompt responses and who the user are. So we have high accuracy in that regard in terms of like reducing, in the machine learning terms, like false negative and false positive.
Okay. That's interesting. So I was just making a note when you said that because you probably have seen a lot then. You keep mentioning, Bob. I remember when I first saw your product, there was a demo again around finance. Can you walk me through like what happens when one of those comes in then? So instead of, showing the salary information, like what's an example of a breach or misconfiguration that either you've seen and then seen it happen, and then one where if Opsin was in place that it would have helped prevent?
Yeah. So an example that I've seen that happen is a marketing manager trying to access some financial document for her presentations. What happened was when she put that into Microsoft Copilot, it actually showed up a lot more financial information than she wanted to see. I mean, like things that she didn't know that she get access to it, and things that like super sensitive that she should not get access to that in the first place. So we've seen that example many times over. It could be finance, it can be HR, it can be like whatever data that you can think of. Like, for example, one of our customers is a manufacturing customers and they really worry about their water filter designs, for example.
Yeah.
And so if there was technical guardrails from Opsin, we would have run that query way before the CBIT. So what that means is that maybe like 2 months before you see actually run this, Opsin actually ran that query before, and then it generate like, okay, these are the issues. IT admin fix this, or like we actually can fix it automatically as well. Fix this. So then 2 months later, someone ran that query again. It would not return that result in the first place. And if it happened to that there are new documents that got added, then security admin will be alerted about. Like, get back to your example about like airbag and seatbelt and stuff like that, right? Like, we would alert security admin about that so that they can fix it and reduce the time for exposure.
So how does Opsin then blend into existing systems? Because all too often, security gets this feel like things are getting slowed down because we have security, and so innovation is being slowed down, or you're getting in the way. How does Opsin? So you've sort of mentioned that it's in the background doing these checks from a pen test standpoint, and then what else is happening in the background there?
So when you say like blend into existing system, you mean existing security system, or could you elaborate a little bit more there?
So how does it? I think the idea just becomes, how does introducing a tool like this? We already know that how it enhances, but is it going to be getting in the way? How does it empower the teams? You sort of alluded it a little bit right there in the last part that the teams normally would have to have a full-time employee or more that would be looking at this constantly, and it may or may not do any good. So why is this something that someone wants in their environment to enhance their security?
Yeah, definitely. Think about the alternative, right? It's security is all about the alternatives. Right? Is that so? Two things. One is that you don't have a security professional to monitor the environment, and all hell break rules, right? Like enterprise information is free for access to everybody, right? Like they can see whatever data that they want, which is what you don't want. But at the same time, security professionals have a lot of work to do, right? Like there's so many threats all over the place. Like I feel so sorry for these guys. They have the hardest job. I mean, every day you gotta wake up, you look at the dashboard, it's like, oh, there's like 200 alerts. Like, what I'm gonna do about it, right? So the last thing you want is you want to look at another 100 pages long of report that you need to fix. So in terms of like empowering the team, like we have in terms of monitoring the environment, and because we have higher accuracy, we not just use the file metadata, but also the end users, who they are, the problem responses. We actually have a higher accuracy, so the number of alerts will be a lot less, and we integrate with their existing tooling and ecosystem. And the most important part is that we automate the remediations. So, for example, we would go and alert the employees, we alert the file owners that, hey, this file should not be here, like you should kind of fix it. Or we can alert the employees like, hey, I saw that you're asking salary for 10 times, like just stop doing it, man. Like it's you've been here for 20 years, Bob. Like there's no point. You are the lowest salary employee in the company. So it's kind of like help the offload the team in terms of workload and making sure that there is an airbag if things kind of hit a crash there.
Yeah, and I like you said that, because one of the things I am quite known for not liking is security awareness training, with the idea that I can't expect the end user. You mentioned quite a bit today that the end user is the problem, right?
Right.
And so I agree with you. From every security aspect that I deal with on a day-to-day basis and over the decades, it's been the end user, layer 8, right? And so
Yeah.
the situation becomes we can't expect them not to do something bad.
Yeah.
What we need to do is expect them to do something bad and protect that decision, protect the business from that decision.
Right.
So I love that you said it that way.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. What keeps you up at night when you think about where this tech is heading, Gen AI in general?
I think what kept me up at night is that there's so much advancement in Gen AI. People, like, because we here in Silicon Valley talk a lot about agentic AI, multi-agent, autonomous workflow. Genie going to take over the humans. Like, we don't need a SaaS software anymore. We just have an AI agent that do everything. Like, you don't need a CIM system. Like, I heard all about that, and I think is it will be true sometime in the future. But that's also a very dystopian future too, right? Like, because imagine now you have like a single agent, like Microsoft Copilot. They have multiple agents in the background, but you can treat them like as a single agent. And you have so many problems about like oversharing data, who get data. Imagine you have a swarm of agents,
Oof.
and they are acting on your behalf, right? Like, see how much data they can go around scour. Like, let's say you grant them access to your information or the enterprise environment. Like, see how much. I mean, there's a helpful side, but also the dark side too. Like, see how much potential damage it could do.
Yep.
Right. Like, I think people like, okay, yeah, this is amazing architecture in terms of agentic architecture. These are like, I have like 100 agents doing the research, accessing the data, producing the output, go to the next one. But I was like, man, like that's cool, but like, have you thought through like what does that mean in terms
Yeah.
of data and security and personal safety, and what about all that? Because if one agent got it wrong, the rest of the agent will be veer off.
Yeah.
So I think that back to your question about like what kept me up at night, I think that we just at the beginning of Gen AI, and there's so much damage there. There's so much security concerns there. Imagine that we go like further. We will figure it out, but I think that we will need to do it safely and securely.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I always think about how to attack the system, right? And that was one of my fears that you just mentioned, because I've been looking at, how taking advantage of oversharing, especially when we start looking at creating an API, an AI agent or an API that communicates with all of these agents. And if I'm creating something that's the one misaligned model, right, that triggers all of the oversharing, it's going to set off this whole chain of unintended outputs everywhere. And how do you fall back? Like, so some of this we mentioned, like, if you have these compliances, you have to trigger, or if there's a leak, you have to contain it. But how do you start containing it when all of these models and all these agents start working with each other and talking, and all that oversharing data now gets everywhere, right? Like,
Right.
it's one of those things that definitely, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think the latest and greatest example is the Signal group chat on the defense, right? Like, I know it's a human error. It's unfortunate. It's definitely a human error. But imagine if Gen AI was to do that, right? Like, and then let's say there are 100 of Gen AI agents that is in the defense department. Like, some of those agents, AI agents, are gonna make mistake.
Yep.
And it could be this time is the Houthi attack, but it could be like a lot more dangerous thing. Like, what if it reveal like sensitive information? And it's just like from a very naive mistake. Like, I'm gonna give the example of Bob again, but Bob from IT made a mistake, set a group as a public group. The agent got access to it, and then that agent produced some output to another agent, and the other agent is posting it to a press release. And that's how like the entire gen kind of get trickled out from just Bob setting the permission on SharePoint as a public group.
You gotta love it. Okay, so then to see the other side of the coin, right? Like, what gives you the most optimism that we'll actually figure this out, right?
I think the biggest optimism I have is that Stone Age till now, human being always figure out new technologies, and then we always figure out something to secure it. be it 20 years ago it was a cloud, right? Everyone was worried about the cloud, worried about SaaS, worrying about all of that. I think now they still worry, right? It's not gone away, but it's got a lot better. But they figured it out. It just takes some time. And before that, it was the internet. Like people were using it to sell like heroin and marijuana and all of those stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, we figured it out. And before that, yeah, whatever that you can think of,
Yeah.
there's always. But we always figure things out as a human race. So I think what gives me optimism is, you know, it just takes time, right? Like things that you and I are doing right now, which is to raise awareness about issues, the problems, and we actually, figuring out solution to
Yep.
it. So, but I think the first thing should be awareness, right? Oversharing is a problem. Oversharing is a problem. Data is a problem. Oversharing is a problem. Oversharing is a problem. So you just say that to like 1,000 people at 1,000 different occurrences and events, and eventually it will come across.
Yeah.
And then once awareness is there, then okay, how do we fix it, right? So I think that gives me optimism that we have a history of invent great things, but we also have a history of limiting the downside of it. And I think that we'll get there. Just, awareness is first and then solution is second.
I love it. So if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing about enterprise secure Gen AI, what would it be?
Remove Bob. um, no. It's a
I
joke.
love it. I'm
It's a
going
joke,
with that
but-
answer. You don't even get to answer anything else. No, I'm just joking. Go on.
I think that if I have a magic wand that I can do whatever I wish, I think that if enterprise got more understanding about the risks that associate with Gen AI and have a proper one in terms of policy and education awareness is critical. And then the second is a technical barrier to make sure that it is safe and secure. So I think if they get these two correct, then the adoption of Gen AI will skyrocket, right? Because now they know that they are being taken care of in terms of security, and then they can enjoy all the benefits that they want. So if the magic one can help, it would be like making sure that every CISO, CIO, not just CISO and CIO, but every employee is that, hey, okay, awesome. You're using Gen AI for this you guys, but have you considered about like the downside of it? So like it's just that, back of their mind that like for example, like when you drive a car, you change lane, you're supposed to look over your shoulder, right? Like,
Yeah.
like this. And you have to do that with Gen AI too. And by the way, I just keep going back to that seatbelt and airbag example, but it is true, right?
Yeah.
Like you got
Relatable.
to look
Yeah.
relatable, exactly.
Yeah. I love it. So let's round this all out by going through those personas. So you mentioned CISO. So what advice for CISOs for those trying to set policies without slowing down innovation?
Yeah, I think your question there is an advice, which is that from a CISO perspective, like be open minded in terms of the Gen AI capabilities and what it could do, and focusing on around how do we enable innovation without blocking, and help organization be aware of the risk, help them adopt it safely and securely. So I think the first thing CISO probably need to do, and I think I see a lot of them, they are very open minded. That's a good thing, is to understand what is Gen AI, what it does, and then from there help your organization move up the curve in terms of adoptions.
Perfect. So then for security engineers, what skill set do they need next to be Gen AI ready?
Yeah. In terms of the security engineer, the skill set that they need to understand is around, okay, what's the different technical guardrails that they can adopt or employ to ensure that my organization is safe and secure, right? It could be that there are certain settings, configuration, but there are also like certain tooling that can help with my job. And I think that there's so many tools out there. Opsin is one of them, but there's so many out there that they can look into this tooling and see how it's applicable to their company and environment. At the end of the day, it had to fit into their UK. It had to fit into the problem that they're trying to solve. So like being open-minded and, adopt different tooling or mindset to help, organization adopt Gen AI safely.
Yeah, that's perfect. So just a continuation. So we talked just about CISOs, we talked about security engineers, and I just want to know from you personally, right? Like,
Yeah.
what keeps you grounded while building Opsin in such a fast moving space? Like you're doing a lot, you're thinking through a lot. I see you everywhere. Like when I was researching you for like what's the best way to help get this message out with you and for you, you're everywhere. You're at conferences. You stopped and talked with me at HIMSS 25. You're over going to RSA. So what keeps you grounded while doing this? Like what keeps you motivated?
I think what keeps me motivated is that I think GenAI has the potential to unlock the human race, just like the internet, just like electricity, just like a lot of technological evolution in the past. Like it had the potential to unlock human capabilities. It helped with expand human capacities in a great ways. And without proper security, it's going to be a hard sell to expand Gen AI adoption. It's going to be very hard without like security guardrails because, like for example, the cloud and all the past innovation, they need to have some security guardrails around it so that people can adopt technology. And what kept me motivated is that I felt that at Opsin we could be that enabler in terms of enabling. We start with enterprises, but it could be enabling consumer enterprises, like everyone in the human race, to be able to utilize and adopt Gen AI. And I feel that Opsin is a critical piece in that. There's a lot of pieces with different people tackling different problems because human society is a very kind of, we have a lot of people doing different things, but we all go through like the same goal. And I feel that the security aspect is something that us at Opsin, me personally, could help given our experiences and background. And so that's what motivated me, right? I just making sure that we as human race can adopt safely and securely Gen AI, but at the same time I enjoy meeting and seeing people, like so many wonderful people, like different story, they have different work in life. Like I talk with someone who have a chemistry background, become a CISO. I talk with someone have a FBI background, become security. Like I just enjoy getting to know people, and I really love it. Right? I hate the traveling part. I hate it. But the part about talking and getting to know people and everyone have their own unique story in life is really interesting to me. So that's the second piece too. So the first thing is about like helping us as human race to adopt Gen AI more rapidly. But then the second thing is actually I enjoy talking and getting to know people. It's not about like selling and stuff like that, but it's more about like, hey, who are you as a person, and what journey have you gone through to get to this point? And it's just a nice thing to know people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Before we close, a huge thank you to James Pham, founder of Opsin, for joining me today. His experience speaking with hundreds of leaders across industries brings a grounded, real-world perspective to what enterprises are actually facing with Gen AI adoption, the opportunities, the risks, and the realities that often get overlooked in the hype. So here's the takeaway. Gen AI isn't failing because of model flaws or exotic hacks. It's stumbling over the same age-old problem, humans oversharing. The tech is powerful, but without the right guardrails, education, and visibility, it's like giving the keys to a Ferrari to someone who's only ever driven bumper cars. So if you're a founder, a CISO, engineer, or just someone trying to keep your company's secrets, the lesson is simple. Don't trust and verify. AI can accelerate innovation, but only if we build it on a foundation of security and governance. Otherwise, we're just speeding toward chaos with no seatbelt. That's all for this episode of AI Explored, the human's guide to the future. I'd love to hear what you think. Have you already seen Shadow AI sneaking into your workplace? Or maybe you've been surprised by what Copilot pulled up? Join the conversation at humanguide.ai or find me on social media at humanguide.ai. These conversations shape how AI is built and used, and may even protect us from Bob in IT. Until next time, stay curious, keep dreaming expansively, and never cease to explore. Remember, the future isn't pre-written, It's crafted by our collective imagination, one episode at a time.
AI Explored.